before. I mean, I saw some of your works, King James. Great work, and really exciting work, especially the ad you guys did with Jose Mourinho.
Oh,
That
it's
was
made it your
really
way already.
interesting. It was talking about confidence. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I saw it.
Crazy time to be making
cool.
advertising.
Oh yeah, and getting somebody like Mourinho to do an ad like that, I'm sure Sandler really.
Especially getting Mourinho while he's busy changing teams. That was an interesting process. But fun and games. That's why we do it, eh?
Yeah. But, I mean, there was a call to action. I just wanted to ask this off the cuff. There was a call to action in the ad where Mourinho was telling people to come learn more about confidence with him online. Does the link actually work?
Yeah, we created a whole, we've got a bot going where you can actually message him and you can interact with him, and then it can lead you directly to products. So that's all linked to the main campaign. But that's the future of marketing for us, is that, you're no longer passive. You don't just put out a piece of advertising. You now have to be able to watch it, view it, click a button, interact with the actor, and potentially buy a product. I mean, that's kind of how it all works. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're live, and I think we're ready to go. And we just get thumbs up. And if that's a thumbs up, Namdi, then we'll just shoot. But I think we're set to go. I'd like to say a big thank you and welcome once again. So by way of introduction, just introduce the jury members, the jury president roundtable this is. And Alexi, very big thank you to each and every one of you for your time. We've got Akwa Owusu-Nate, Regional Managing Director, Gilvey Africa, the channel jury president. We've got Alistair King. I was just talking to him just now, co-founder, creative chief officer of King James Group Africa, heritage jury president. We've got Juliet, as always. Juliet, thank you so much. You're as a Google director of Google West Africa, digital and good jury president. We've got Femi Odugwemi, founder and CEO, Zuri 24 Media, Lagos, and Academy Director, Multi-Choice Talent Factory, West Africa. So that's the entertainment jury president. It's a pleasure to have all of you here to have this rich conversation. So, like I did say, we'll start the conversation from somebody's raising their hands. Juliet, you've got something to say? I can see you raising your hand, Juliet.
No, I wasn't.
I mean, I can see you raising your hand. Aqua. Okay, Aqua, you've got something to say?
Complete accident. My computer with a mind of its own. Forgive me.
Oh, okay. So, we'll pretty much start the conversation from Juliet. I mean, Juliet, just, share with us rich experiences from this process. Thank you, Juliet.
Great. Thank you very much, Rufai. And hello, everyone on the live stream. Great to be here. Just first and foremost, I want to just acknowledge the body of work that was created. So I was president of the jury for Digital and Good. And it was great to see the effort that was put into the work that was submitted. We had 4 categories: social media, apps, sites, messaging. And we saw that there were certain categories that were really loaded, while others were really lonely, if I may say that. So for example, the social media category had more than 90% of the submissions. And our judging criteria, the panel, we were very unanimous in just looking for, looking at the creative idea, looking at execution, and also looking at results. And I think from a creative perspective, clearly there's a lot of talent and, there's a lot of creativity on the continent. And we have, really amazing stories to tell. And it was good to see the thoughts that went into bringing some of those stories to life. One of the things that we observed was just because we were grading on digital and the use of digital platforms, one of the things we observed is that there's some great progress, And we think there's still a lot of headroom for growth around really optimizing the unique attributes of the various digital platforms and using the strengths of those platforms to just really amplify the story, to tell the story. There were some cases of, for example, a video being ported on a digital platform, or digital platforms being used almost like an additional media channel rather than, really looking at all the engagements that is possible with digital, looking at insights, looking at user feedback and things like that. So I think definitely there's a lot of headroom for growth, and we would love to see a lot more. We think there's a lot of strength, right, in our narratives and telling those stories. And if we marry that with the strengths that these platforms offer, we'll see a lot more magic in the space. And we believe that the Peter Awards can just really be a great platform to really unleash and showcase the best out of Africa. And if we marry what we have with the strength of these platforms, I think we can go a lot further. In some cases as well, because one of the things we tracked was just results. And there were some submissions where there were no results that were listed. In some cases, we had to just really, try to put in a bit of extra effort to look at what the results were, etc. But we think at the end of the day, these campaigns are meant to serve a purpose, right? And it can be a number of things, right? It can be impact, it can be engagement, it can be brand equity, different things. But it'll be great to just also really call out the impact of some of these bodies of work that we really put a lot of effort into. I would also say that some of the strengths that we know digital platforms offer really speak to and the possibility of iterating as you go along. So, first and foremost, just even a certain amount of research and insights generation to better understand what resonates with the user. And then, it's even possible to test things out and get a sense of, what messaging is getting a better traction and how do we drive a lot more user engagement, create a lot more impact with the storytelling. So those are some opportunities. And one feedback we've given to the organizers is just around, the need for possibly thinking about an integrated digital campaign category as well, because by and large, most campaigns are set up that way, where you leverage multiple channels and multiple platforms to tell a complete story. And we had a good example of a submission that did that, where there was a mock trailer for a movie that hadn't been created on YouTube. And social media platforms were used to drive talkability, and the campaign leveraged different parts of the digital ecosystem. The actors were leveraged as influencers, creating live sessions on social media, creating drama and conflict, and just generating user interest. And that really came alive and had a lot of engagement. So we saw some examples of those, but I think definitely that's an area we'd like to see a lot more rigor around.
Thank you so much, Juliet, for that. On the person that was raising their hands, Aqua. Aqua, your computer did indeed have a mind of its own, and we'll have to call you next. Thank you so much.
And my hands as well. It didn't do it right. It didn't do it right.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I was jury present for the channel category. So we judged work for integrated campaigns, the use of data. There was some work on PR and influence, use of insights, innovative use of media. And I think there was one more, which I think was data and insights, right? Now, in terms of criteria, it was what kind of insights went into the work? Did it answer the brief? We talked about the creativity that the work brought to the table, and more importantly, the results. Now, for me, in terms of the journey and this whole thing, at a point in time, I did get dragged kicking and screaming, because I look at my calendar, I'm like, will I have time to judge all this work? But once I actually got into it, it was really, really a great experience, as it always is, to judge work, right? Because you're looking at how far the industry has come and where it's heading to, and almost actually very inspiring, right? To see how far we've come. So the things that I found really good just through the judging process were things like how we're actually being intentionally strategic in the work we are putting out there. So I used to have a strategic partner who says that creative is where good strategy goes to die. Right. And so, but when as we looked at the work, you realize that the work was actually with strong strategic intent. It's not like you're seeing the strategy, but you can see that this is actually answering a client problem. And what was also really good for me to see was just how we are being solution oriented. So if I look 10 years back, it was just about, do something, answer the brief and move on, right? But you can see how each piece of work was actually driving a solution to a real client problem. More importantly for me also was just how production values have gone up. And I know that Femi probably has a lot more to say about production values. And it's quite a broad spectrum. You find that some of the production values are very good and some of them are still struggling to find their way up there. But it's really nice to see that the clients are willing to invest a bit more. It's also nice to see that we as agencies are also making sure that we are raising the standards and so on. In terms of things that we thought we could be doing different, I think packaging of the work was one thing. So even though we judged 5 categories, you'd have some work that was appearing in multiple categories, and the packaging was the same for each category. And you can't be sending work for PR and influence with the same, case study video for data or insights and so on. So just the packaging of the work was one thing that we feel like we need to be a bit more intentional about. And it might be worthwhile even doing a few workshops with agencies and making sure senior people who are actually doing the packaging. The other thing that was really worth talking about in this part of the world, right? So there was one campaign that stood out tall for us within the influencer segment, and that was the Google campaign, if I'm not wrong, from SA. And it was just how it was not just taking a celebrity influencer and sticking them into an ad and saying that they're influencers and they're going to drive behavioral change and so on, but it was actually using somebody who was not popular in any way at all, but somebody who was a significant figure of influence in the culture, right? So for me, it's just how we begin to use some of these things going forward and how we use influencers. And then just data, encouraging our clients to buy into data, encouraging our clients to invest in actually figuring out if our campaigns are working the way they need to work. So those were some of the learnings for me, just kind of with the team. But it was really great just sitting and judging the 90 odd pieces of work that we had to judge as a jury, and how interesting and, fresh some of the work was, and how far we've come as an industry, even though I know we still have a bit of a way to go, but we have come far and we need to tap ourselves on the back a little bit from time to time. Thank you for listening to my long blurb.
And I'm just doing right what you said, tap ourselves on the back a little bit from time to time. Yeah. I'd like to call on Femi. Femi, great to have you here. I know you have a lot of insight to share as regards this. Thank you so much for your time. Femi, you're still muted. Okay, good.
I apologize. I'm entranced watching Alistair's dog right behind him. It's so funny. I could almost just piggyback on what Akua and Juliet have said in terms of just how interesting I think that the quality of creativity, the quality of relevance, the quality of execution, in the work that we found. Our category is new. This is its first year. So we actually spent a lot of time trying to figure out how do we apply some of this criteria to long form content, because for us, it's not just one work. It's actually several episodes of an idea. And these are long episodes. So we also have to think of how consistent is the executional, excellence. How deep is the idea itself? How far can it be stretched? In what different ways is it expressed? But at the end of the day, I'm still quite delighted, and I think my jury members would agree that creating an entertainment category is going to be a bit of a slow going, because it's going to be as fast as the industry embraces how we use content. How much do we embrace longer form storytelling as a part of our brand story? And for me, I think that it's a good start. We did not have a lot of entries, but I think the entries we had were quite engaging for us. And when I say we didn't have a lot of entries, maybe that's good, because for some of the entries, there's one entry, but there's 13 episodes. So it's still a lot to watch, a lot to see. And a lot to see in terms of what the potentials are, because again, we had to kind of sort of look at the future as well as we judged, because it has to be that the creativity we award must not only be a reward for the creative work, but somehow inspire more entries in the future of that category. I feel comfortable that we brought the right kind of rigor to it. We had more or less unanimity for most of our judging, but we did have a bit of a debate about whether to award the Grand Prix, and it was energetic, to say the least. But we did end with a majority opinion on that. And that will be revealed in due course. But I'm very excited about one important thing, which is that almost all the long form try to respond to the reality of COVID-19. I think it's important for us to also not ignore the fact that creating during COVID-19 demanded a response, not just a response in terms of what our brand stories are, but our brand stories in the context of what? Because effectively the COVID-19 pandemic is really in the end somewhat of a decisive moment for all creative ideas. You have to accept that the audience or the consumers are not exactly in the same frame of mind that they were before. And the kind of way in which you communicate or ideate or express to them and with them has to recognize the moment that, in terms of their mental space, their emotional space, and the idea that authenticity has become something really important. That's not just defined about with the authenticity of the brands, but also authenticity in terms of the world of the consumer, who in the context of entertainment is a viewer. But not just that, authenticity in terms of recognizing where they are emotionally. Because one of the things that's consistent about feedback about how people were during this COVID and possibly post-COVID is that they've gotten very comfortable with interacting online. Human connections now have to be interpreted emotionally in such a way that you must accept that your first impressions may be online. And so you have to figure out not just what the research is saying, but also what the times are saying, and how both of them collide in terms of the consciousness of the consumer. And for me, the project that we've awarded, we've awarded a Grand Prix, manages to demonstrate for me a deep level of empathy, a deep level of consciousness in terms of the times, what we would really want to be doing at that time, recognize the fact that we're kind of locked in, we can't, but can we still somehow get that experience? And I think for me, it was just a gorgeous way to connect us, not just to a brand, but the feeling that, that brand promises. And so I'm very excited, for the projects that we've awarded to be revealed, because I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy the work and the excellence that's being shown. Thank you.
For that, I really appreciate you. And we'll quickly move to Alistair. Alistair, please just share your insights as regards your category with us. And then I pretty much start taking the hacks afterwards.
Well, I don't think anyone's left me anything to say, quite frankly. I think everyone's nailed exactly what I was going to say about the heritage category. And I'm glad Femi brought up COVID as a context, because I was expecting to see a lot more work about the challenges we were facing during COVID, funny enough, and there really wasn't. There was a lot of causal-based issues in the advertising that addressed virtually everything except what we were going through during COVID. And I don't know if that was a conscious effort not really to kind of enter work that kind of reflected how hard last year was. I mean, I think that last year creating advertising was probably, it was mind-blowing for all of us, because we were trapped. We were in our own sort of emotional tornado, this our own sense of drama. But how you had to actually try to make ads in those situations was interesting. So when we started judging, we said, let's celebrate the work that really sort of elevated itself above the times, that people pulled off small miracles in a very tough year for our whole continent. And I was absolutely blown away by the work that was very good in our category. Was very, very good. The level of craft was excellent. The ideas were compelling. But I think that the cream was quite thin. And I think that the reason it was thin is a reflection of how hard last year was for us to make advertising. But I absolutely was thrilled. Our whole panel was, when you find yourself fighting for pieces of work and you're passionate about it as a jury member, it kind of illustrates to you how good the standard is in certain categories. And I agree, there were many categories that were in fact very weak, and you kind of ask yourself, why is that category not stronger? I mean, why? Radio for me is one such example where radio is such a powerful medium on our continent, and yet the level of ambition in the category wasn't as high as I expected. Maybe people are just forgetting to just enter in radio, for example. I don't know, but largely speaking, a lot of the categories, and I think it was Aqua who also mentioned that what was also clear was some people would create a piece of advertising and then slap it on various categories, and it wasn't created unique for that medium. It didn't, I think Juliet mentioned it actually, that it wasn't sort of designed to work hard and maximize the medium for all its values. It was sort of you start getting a lot of posters looking like print ads, and it's kind of like slapped and pasted, and it's not really well thought out in the sense that it must work in that medium. So the jury did work hard to celebrate work that was designed to work in one channel particularly. And I think just one thing that's also important for me to say, because it very much, I think every jury has a mood. At the start of it's set often by the president, and then the kind of the jury itself either agrees with that mood or not. And this year, the mood of our jury was we talked about celebrating work that really looked like a great partnership between a client and an agency, and the marrying of those two things. my relationship with award shows is complex, because I think that historically agencies have become quite self-indulged with award shows as being their creative platform. But more and more marketers want to see work up there that reflects how hard they worked and how hard they fought to make that work happen. And I think that the future of our business has to be built around award shows celebrating a partnership between a client and an agency, and fighting hard to make work outstanding, because that's how we raise ourselves as an industry, and that's how we as creative providers elevate our own importance in our clients' lives. So that became the mood of our jury. Yeah, I think let's get on to some other conversation.
Okay, thank you so much. But the exciting thing is, all of you, when you did speak, you did start the next by adding solutions and hacking the whole system, pretty much. It shows your solution providing minds, I should say. So let's get into the meat of the matter. Let's hack this. Let's for Dr. Seuss now. Let's create the new monster advertiser should be. I don't want to call you guys because of Frankenstein thing, but let's do that work now. Let's hack it. I'll start from you, Alistair. I think going forward, what do you think, the face of work, creativity, and advertising should be like, and what should be the takeaways for a lot of people watching this?
You were breaking up quite a lot, but I think I got the gist of your question. I think, I hate to talk about the future, because I think if COVID taught us one thing, it's just how hard it is to predict what's going to happen next. But I think that we're on the verge of a remarkable phase in our business. I really believe that. I think that if anything needed to shake our business up, it was probably 2020. Creativity has been under pressure as a kind of a marketing tool. I think that it's questioned even now, and it's hard to believe that it's questioned. But I think that now that we've gone through this really challenging phase in our lives, in our history, I think that creativity is going to come out fighting very hard. I think that we've learned to appreciate how hard it was to be creative in these periods, and therefore it's going to be valued more and more so in our brands going forward. I think we're the most creative agencies now who can apply innovative thinking to the channels and the platforms that they work on are the agencies that are going to flourish over the next few years. I think there's going to be an absolute explosion with everything, with music, with film, with creative marketing. This is our time, I believe. And a lot of what I think we've got all the talent we need to have ideas and then execute them beautifully. We just have to channel that and make sure that ourselves and our clients share that ambition for our brands.
All right, thank you so much. I'll come to you, Femi. I just want to get your insights and the things we should probably learn from this process and how we can do better going forward.
Well, I think that it's also sort of important because in the area of entertainment and its intersection with brand stories, we have to also understand the expansion that's going on. The idea that lots and lots of young people in Africa are very much looking at their future in the context of entertainment. The idea that a lot of those who are the heroes or those who the large sector. So the idea of who our brand is, how we represent our storytelling in terms of the context, the African story versus, the stories from Africa, there's a lot that I think brands and agencies will have to think about in terms of storytelling itself, emotional equity that it brings with it. The idea that, you know, entertainment is no longer something for the big screen. It's now, you know, for the smaller screens as well, and that it's something that's engaging audience attention 24 hours, and that there is a multiplicity of platforms where this is now happening. And the idea that it is something that, you know, they reach for as a first choice before anything. All of that is easy storytelling, how it evolves from the, you know, short forms that we know to the long forms, and not necessarily storytelling in terms of just the fictional bits, even the non-fiction, the bits that, you know, we just have to sit to rethink the times, rethink the trends, understand the impact of technology itself, and the idea that, you know, just grabbing brand ambassadors as we sometimes do and just placing them, you know, in sort of like this one-dimensional talk at the audience might no longer work. They have to somehow actually figure out a way to connect to the emotions. And I think that's really where I've been thinking also about representation as a big issue, even for advertising. How are we representing not just the brands, but the identity of this brand as something situated within Africa? And I think that's really something that agencies are going to have to take, or creatives are going to take far more seriously, in that, you know, every little collision with our stories, people are asking us, how are we representing our African experience? And I think there is no faster way to encounter that than through brand stories and advertising. Because when you want to know about any country, just arrive at the hotel and watch their advertising. In 1 hour, you get a good sense of, you know, who they are, what they hold dear, what their worldview might be. And I think that is something that has to be bigger in the work that a lot of, you know, agencies in Africa needs to be doing. And I think that's just the lesson I take away from the picture, the entertainment category, that, you know, there is a responsibility we must assume for actually re-engaging storytelling, not from the perspective of, you know, what works, what will work in Cannes, or what will work in England, or what, you know, what stories will work across many continents, which caters to the brand need, but also how do we represent the audiences in these different spaces and their need as well for identity, empathy, emotional representation. All of that, I think, is the exciting new future.
All right, thank you so much, Femi. I mean, very rich insight you did share, especially, you know, when you were talking about the fact that once you get into a country, the adverts you see pretty much tells you a lot about the country. I mean, I always have this experience with the UK. Once I get out of the plane in Heathrow and I walk into Heathrow and I see those pictures of beef eater, I know I'm in the UK. I mean, it just resonates. You just have to see the pictures in the hallway of beef eaters. You just properly know you're in the UK, and it speaks volumes, you know, and it really speaks volumes about even the climate, the business climate, and it's something we should also look at, you know, about using advertisements as our heritage, you know, just like when I get into Ghana, you know, the Kotako International, and I see this big logo. And I say, it's only Ghana I can say Akwaba. I mean, and that's what it gives you. So apart from that, it's something of national pride, and it's something indicative. I think the Brazilians enjoy this a lot when they churn out and the Argentines, I should say. I'd like to come to you now. Akwa, no need to say Akwaba, but thank you so much. And I just want you to share with us, hacks for the future.
So just like Alistair, when I think of the future, I kind of think of today, right? And I say that because if COVID has taught us anything, it's just the fragility of life and even how we plan long term. And so I will talk a bit about the things I think we could be doing today, just looking into the future with some level of optimism, if I may put it that way. So the first thing is around being mindful and being intentional as creatives, right? I stumbled on a book called Ikigai. I think that's how it's pronounced, and it's a theory around long-term happiness and living a purposeful life, and it's a whole Japanese thing, right? And what it's beginning to teach me and how I translate that into our creative world is about being a lot more intentional. What I find is that we are constantly racing from one brief to the other. And that race is good, right? Because you do need to drive in the revenue, and there's so many business KPIs that you need to meet. But I think that more and more, that partnership that Alistair talked about between clients and agencies needs to be built up. Agency-client relationship is no longer a master-servant relationship, it's a partnership. And it's a partnership that allows both parties to win and both parties to drive personal growth agendas, right? Whether it's on the business side for the client or whether it's from the kind of awards that agencies win. And for me, I just think that going into the future, as African storytellers, as African creatives, as Africans telling our own African story and building our brands, whether they're authentic African brands or international brands, we need to be intentional about telling our own story. We need to be intentional about being the craft we put into the work that we do. We need to be intentional about making sure that it's representative of who we truly and who we authentically are. And that goes the whole thing of insights and just making sure that if you ask any mother, why do you take care of your children, right? You'll get answers like, oh, because I love my children, because my children mean the world to me, because I want to be a good mother. But the reality when you drill down is that tension of, I don't want my mother-in-law to tell me I'm a bad mother. I don't want society to look at me and judge me wrongly. So I would invest in my kids more than I would invest in myself, right? So it's just being able to be true to the storytelling that we are putting out there, being able to spend time with our clients and not rush every single brief. And maybe I live in a cocoon and I live in an idealistic world, and I can't see Alistair's face and what Alistair is thinking or what, and I'm talking to the agency guys, right? Or Femi's thinking. But I just think that we need to be a lot more mindful going into the future and making sure that we spend time crafting work that will work and is effective and allows us to kind of feel like it's actually meaningful to both our client and to the consumer and to the agency.
Hey, thank you so much for that great insight. I mean, I could pick out a lot of mindfulness in what you said. And pretty much what Alistair, you, Akwa, and Femi have been talking about pretty much resonates around, the messages of Marcus Aurelius. So a little hack, I'm a Stoic, and Marcus Aurelius will always say, obstacle is the way. It is in all of this obstacle and madness that the comes. And it's something that resonates across all what you said. So we'll just take comments from Juliet as we start to wrap things up. I mean, Juliet, what's going to be your outlook? What can be done better? Quick acts and things like that, Juliet.
Thanks, Rufai. I actually touched on this earlier when I spoke, but before I get into that, I wanted to also just say something about the good category, which I didn't mention earlier, and to Femi and Alistair's points about COVID. Under the good category, we had submissions, we have 3 subcategories: COVID, profit, and non-profit initiatives. And it was really great to see a lot of brands really the level at which brands were stepping up to give a nod to the realities that everyone has been impacted by. We've all gone through quite a challenging period, and being able to use technology for good, I think, is a very important thing. And it was great to see some of the creativity on display for that category. Coming back to digital, given that I've covered quite a few of some of the thoughts about the future, I'll just summarize. And I think, collectively as a jury, one of the things we really thought about is the fact that it's really, first and foremost, we're in a very exciting place. There's a lot of talent on the continent and a lot of talent on display when we just look at the body of work submitted. And I think right now we're riding a lot on that talent, but there can be so much more impact if and things can be even easier. Speaking to Femi's point about that emotional equity and all that, we can really leverage digital platforms in a powerful way to complement all that talent that exists and just get a lot stronger impact. And our invitation is for organizations, for agencies to just think about digital as a core part of the planning process. So not at the end when we're thinking about what platforms we're going to publish on, etc., but as an integral part of actually designing our campaigns. And that might require some upskilling to just better understand the nuances and the differences and the strengths of the various platforms so that we can use them to our full advantage. And we would definitely love to see a lot more of that sort of innovation in digital. I think that was the extra sauce that was needed to push some of the submissions over to the next level. And to the point that was made earlier, I think by everyone, about partnership between clients and agencies, we think for sure that's something that is really critical, because this innovation can come from the clients making requests, but we think agencies also have a huge role to play in also just surfacing some of the possibilities and the opportunities, and helping to nudge clients and brands in that direction, and building that sort of influence. So right now we're in a situation where, with the pandemic, the acceleration to digital transformation is even a lot faster, is a lot more. It's for a while now we've been saying it's really important to leverage digital tools and integral part of the way we work and do business. But even more so now, there's no running away from that fact. This is the business continuity is guaranteed because of digital platforms. That's the world we live in right now. We're right in the middle of it. And so that also translates into how we tell our stories, how we build those narratives and all that. And the invitation and the opportunity, which when I look into the future, that's what I see. I see a lot of opportunity. I see possibilities. And I think, given what we have, our heritage around just creativity, rich culture, talent, marrying that with the unique strengths of these platforms and infusing that into how we tell our stories, I'm just excited about what's possible.
Rufai, can I add something to this?
All right, Alistair. Yeah.
Because I think there are a whole bunch of things that have been raised, which I really agree with, and I passionately want to sort of embellish upon. And one of the things Actua raised, which I think is a very good point, is that we absolutely have to, with our clients, earn their respect and their respect for how hard it is to have great ideas, and respect for our process. That ideas they don't just come like they're elusive. They're hard to find, and it's worth investing in that hunt to find them. It's we kind of are stuck in a kind of a, you've got till Friday, you've got till Wednesday, as if on demand, ideas on demand are just sort of like baking bread. It's a really tough thing that we do, and to do it well, we have to earn that respect and respect for that process. And a huge part of what, for me, is that I think our industry is, I've been feeling it as a creative person, a lot of the stuff we almost weighing ourselves down with with a style of advertising that's actually not enriching. It's quite heavy. It's quite burdened by empathy. Has become this tool as if it's a kind of a marketing device. And we forget that we're in such a privileged position to inspire people and excite them and entertain them and make them laugh and make them just be in an energizing position. And I think that one of my hacks, which we were talking about earlier, in fact, is that I'm consciously making decisions to make advertising that doesn't try to make you cry the whole time. I'm trying to make advertising that's going to actually energize you and bring, and with that means using innovation. And we are in the entertainment business. Our clients might have purpose, but our purpose is to sell our clients products and make our products look incredible, not just make them look deep. And you know what I'm saying? So I'm consciously trying to make work that's happier. And I know it's hard to address big issues with happy advertising, but I think that when we partner with our clients, we've got to resist the temptation to just try and reduce everyone to tears the whole time. You know, I mean, let's try and change the kind of language that we're using and how we do it. That's just a thought, a couple of thoughts.
I mean, Alistair, when you mentioned you're happier, your dog just turned at your back. You need to see your dog. You need to see the joy. When you
the reason is I've been in Cape Town. I'm now in my home in Greyton, which is about 150 kilometers from Greyton. But they haven't seen me for 5 days, so they can't leave me alone now. They just look at me like I'm a long lost lover at the moment. I keep
well said, Alistair. But I think it's instructive that, and thank you all of you for your round of applause for you guys. I think it's instructive that one thing we've been able to establish that we can truly be sort of like in the spirit of hacking, be hacktivists actually, and we can rewrite the narrative. And there's an African adage that says, get in the story of the ordeal between the lion and the and I think, except we start to tell those stories, those stories of happiness, not sort of like commoditizing emotions and trying to make people cry to sell products, they will not go one step further, because now it looks as though emotions are in a bottle, and people are just commoditizing, bottling up emotions in the name of creativity and selling it on TV, and it's something we should, look at anew and pretty much see how we can flip it over. I'm seeing a hand raised. Juliet, that's you. You want to say something? Excellent.
Yes, just a quick one. I just wanted to double click on what Alistair said, because one of the things in terms of just creating those campaigns that are exciting, because part of the feedback we get from agencies is the fact that, sorry, not agencies, brands, is the fact that they would love a lot more to see a lot more innovation, a lot more ideas, a lot more excitement from agencies. And I know it's a fine balance, right? It's also the client insisting they want to go one way. It's also budgets and so on. So it's a fine balance. But what we've also seen is in this environment, when you're able to actually, break through and do something that stands out, there's a lot of applause, and it sort of, sets the industry on a certain path. So I just wanted to double click on that and say, absolutely, it is a challenge and a dance, but I think when we're able to hack it, that's what brands are looking for.
I mean, thank you so much, everybody, and thank you so much, Juliet, for double clicking on that. I mean, I think it's about the time just to pretty much click. Really taking, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people that have watched the show, and most importantly, for making out so much, and it means a lot to us here. Thank you. Nabi, you got any comments? Okay, so is it safe to say
If we are looking at confused, it's
So
because you
time's
keep
done.
breaking up.
2 o'clock. Thank you so much.
You're breaking, that's why.
Breaking, so we couldn't hear you.
Okay, we're done. That's all I was trying to say. We're done.
Okay. All right,
you so
guys, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.